What's up guys, and welcome back to Move Plus. Hope you've had a good week so far. So looking at the start is 1 minute of cardio of your choice, so you guys can be a bit creative there, do what you want to. We're gonna go with box jumps, which is gonna look like this. Okay, so nice and simple, just jumping up and standing tall. From there, the next 4 minutes, we're gonna do as many rounds as we can fit in of 100 skips. So we're gonna grab our skipping rope and go for regular single unders. Okay, that then rolls into 50 mountain climbers. So push-up position, switching the legs back and forth. We then go into 40 jumping jacks. And then finally into 20 hollow rocks. So that is on our low back, limbs nice and long, and rocking back and forth on that one. Now remembering this is an AMRAP, so once you get to the end of that list, you will circle back around to those skips again if you get there in time. You good to go, Em? All right, starting in 10. So 1 minute of cardio of your choice to start things off. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So nice straightforward movement, guys. You can see we've deliberately gone for quite a low box rather than a big 20 or a 24-inch box. This is more about just kind of waking the muscles up, getting the joints moving. It's always really important to give yourself that kind of little grace period. If you've been sitting around, maybe on the laptop all day, you've been driving all day, the body's been kind of stagnant. You don't want to jump straight into really, really difficult, really aggressive movements. So just give yourself something sort of small, easy, simple, allow yourself to kind of ramp up into it. If you're doing this box jump, guys, you want to think about getting the whole foot or both of your feet all the way on the box rather than having the heels hanging off. And then we're standing tall at the top so we can show good control at the finish there. Now in a moment, we're going to move into that next 4 minute piece, which is going to be rotating through 100 skips, 50 mountain climbers, 40 jumping jacks, 20 hollow rocks, as many times as you can. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So moving to the skips now. Grab our skipping rope. We're going to think about a nice, tall, upright position. So nice and open through the hips, shoulders set down. Trying to keep the movement fairly minimal. So it's really just kind of like that little bit of like a push off at the ankles and a little bit of a flick at the wrists. Tiny bit of elbow movement, tiny bit of knee movement, but not much at all. It's more of just a nice vertical bounce. Now these don't necessarily have to be unbroken. If you're quite good at skipping, you can try to go unbroken each time. But it's more about just getting into a rhythm and really warming up the calves, getting the Achilles nice and warm, that sort of thing. Now once we finish the 100 of these, we're going to move to those 50 mountain climbers. Those are drastically more difficult than single unders, so that might be something that you might break up a little bit, or you might be able to go unbroken. It's kind of up to you. Nice. All right, so moving to the 50 mountain climbers. So we're going to get ourselves a nice strong push-up position. So legs are fully extended at the back there, and then we are running the legs underneath the body. So this one gets pretty spicy along the way, but it is fortunately a fairly quick movement. So depending on how sort of fluent you are with it, how much experience you've had with this movement, you might be able to push the full 50 out. Otherwise, break it to maybe a 25-25 split. All right, so from here, we've got 40 jumping jacks. So notice with this one, the feet are going to move in and out, and it's a nice kind of reactive spring back and forth. So very similar to the skips. There's really no heel contact. If there is, it's very, very minimal. It's very much just the kind of the forefoot springing back and forth. Arms are going to go from thighs up to overhead. So we've got 2 more minutes. We'll see how far we can get through this. We might even get into a second round of this. So once the 40 jumping jacks are done, we're going to move on to the 20 hollow rocks. All right, so this is the full version of the hollow rock, guys. We've got limbs nice and long, so arms extended, legs extended. Can also go for sort of a more short tucked position if you need to scale it, especially if you feel like your body still needs that little bit of warm-up time. The main thing is that you just stay on that low back to kind of like the top of your butt there. If you find yourself like sitting up to the point where your feet hit the ground, or you're coming right back until your shoulders and head are hitting the ground, that's going a little too big, a little too drastic. So keep it small, keep it fast. All right, so coming back around to the skips again, we're just about to roll into the final minute. So again, just getting those nice relaxed shoulders and try not to get sort of hunched up and overactive with the arms, doing giant big wheeling kind of arm motions. We just want to try and catch that nice flick of the rope. 45 seconds. Okay, last 15 seconds. Might be able to get onto a couple of mountain climbers. See how we go. Three, two, one, and done. All right, guys, that is the warm-up done. Take a moment to catch your breath. Then we're gonna move into build next. Alrighty guys, so having a look at the build workout now. This one is 6 minutes in length. We have basically 2 stations we're gonna alternate back and forth between. Now, within each of those 2 stations, we actually have 2 movements in them. So the first one, what we're gonna do for 30 seconds is an elbow plank to tall plank. So we'll basically set up on the forearms to begin with. Okay, so down in that plank position, and then from there she's gonna press up onto her hands and just go back and forth between those 2 positions. The other 30 seconds, she'll come down to the forearms and just hold in that plank position. Okay, so that will be minute 1. Minute 2, what we have is alternating dumbbell snatch. So she's gonna go from ground up to overhead in one swift motion, changing hands along the way. Okay, we do that for 30 seconds, then we have 30 seconds of an active squat hold. So she's gonna come down, sitting around that kind of 90-degree bend or just slightly below its squat position. Notice that she's holding herself. She's not kind of dumping into the bottom and relaxing and switching off. She's holding that active position. Thanks, Em. So we're gonna go back and forth on those 2 stations for 6 minutes. You good to go? All right, so looking at the first minute, guys, elbow plank to tall plank back and forth, and then into the plank hold for the other 30 seconds. And go for it. So getting the body nice and straight, and then from there we are pressing up to a kind of a push-up position, slowly lowering it back down. Good idea when you do this one, guys, a little bit of padding underneath the forearms goes a really long way, especially if you're doing this on some harsh ground. You want to make sure you're not having to worry about that discomfort on your forearms and your elbows rather than focusing on the movement. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So now we're holding the plank position for the other 30 seconds. So looking for as straight a body as we can create. Feet are nice and close, shoulders are stacked over elbows, and we're thinking about kind of like drawing that belly button to your spine, so really bracing in. Ten more seconds. Okay, we'll pop up. 3, 2, 1. So moving to the next minute, we've got the dumbbell snatch. So from ground up to overhead, making sure we hit a nice strong lockout finish. You'll see Em's head is kind of just forward of her arm at the top there. Okay, and the stance is a little wider than shoulder width. So this is just so we kind of got that nice clear path for the dumbbell to go down between the legs. Flare the knees out a little bit. This does generally make it a little bit easier from a flexibility point of view as well. All right, and moving to that active squat. So coming down. So if we look at the stance here, she's probably brought the stance in just marginally from that snatch position. So it's more of like a shoulder width stance. Knees are gonna line up with the feet and the posture is tall. So even though we don't have any external weight on us or anything like that, there's no reason for us to slouch. We wanna still kind of refine that squat position. So staying nice and tall there. Okay, now we'll get ready to go back to that first minute. 3, 2, 1, and back to the plank. So really working through sort of like a tricep press out of that bottom plank position up to the tall plank. So challenge with this one is trying to keep the body kind of as still as possible. So trying to avoid any sort of excessive rolling or twisting of the body. Try not to hinge at the hips. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and holding plank. Now this is a scaled version, so she's regressed it to a knee plank, which is just going to basically shorten the lever in, have a little bit less pressure on the midline there, but this is going to be good. It means she's going to be able to hold it for longer. Sometimes we're going the hard option means we have to end up bailing out and resting a lot and breaking the movement up. This is going to allow her to get a little bit more volume under her belt. 10 seconds, Em. 3, 2, 1, and back to the dumbbell. All right, so from a safety point of view, guys, with this snatch, we're really looking for a nice straight back. So same as when we squat or we deadlift or we do cleans, anything like that. Anytime you're picking anything up off the ground, we want to make sure that we are hinging at the hip joint. We're not flexing that spine over and curling over into a rounded position. So really want to try and sort of tense the hamstrings and the glutes as we come up and get that nice rapid hip extension. And go into squat position. So I mentioned before, guys, this is an active squat hold. So what Em's not doing is she's not kind of just slumping into the bottom and just resting the back of her hamstrings on her calves and just kind of like switching off. She's actually actively holding herself in a position, driving those knees out. 3, 2, 1. All right, last cycle through each of these stations. So back on the forearms, going through the plank, pushing to tall plank. So along the way, guys, just make sure we are kind of alternating which hand is kind of pressing first. We don't want to get into the pattern of just pressing the one side and favoring that one. Em's got her feet kind of pushed out, so she's creating a little bit of like a tripod position, gives her a little bit more stability to work with. 3, 2, 1, and holding. So when we get to here, guys, check in. Are my hips bridging up really high? Are they sagging down towards the ground? Am I nice and stable through there? Generally, if you feel it kind of dumping into that low back, like there's a bit of pressure there, it's a pretty strong sign that we're probably not in the right position. So just check that in, make sure we've got that nice straightness there. 3, 2, 1, and moving to the last minute of the build workout. So going into the dumbbell snatches again. Now the hand switch, guys, we're doing that below head height. Sometimes we see people do the old overhead hand change. It's not really the safe way to go. If you misjudge that and you drop it, it's going to clunk you on the top of the head. Also generally leaves us with that head out the back. We don't hit that nice full lockout position. So I always prefer that we hit the lockout and then we look at changing hands on the way down. And go into squat hold. So last 30 seconds. So staying tall, thinking about that spine elongating. Three, 2, 1, and done. All right, guys, that's the build workout done. Have a little bit of a chill, get some water in. We've got a finisher coming up next. Alrighty, guys, so last thing we're gonna go through is the finisher. This is gonna be a little bit more midline work on there. So this one, we've got 4 stages we're gonna go through. Each of those stages will be 45 on, 15 off. We're going to start with a regular plank, so that is on the forearms and on either the balls of the feet or the knees. From that one, we move into a side plank on the right side. Okay, we also have a plank on the left side. And then the 4th stage there is coming back to that original plank on the forearms again. So as I said, we work for 45, rest for 15. You can always scale to knees if you need to, and it's better to do that to keep it rolling, right? Rather than just dropping out altogether. Good to go, Em? All right, starting in 10. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So this is all about getting nice and stable through our trunk, guys. So basically everything from the ribs all the way down to the knees, so that whole midsection of our body, really getting that to lock in. So this is going to be really good to support all of our bigger movements, things like push-ups, things like squats, deadlifts, all those things. We want to kind of understand this relationship between our abs and our glutes. So those two things are going to kind of contract and work together. you'll probably feel as though your pelvis is going to kind of roll backwards a little bit, like you're tucking your tail under a little bit. We're holding nice and straight through the body there. Three, 2, 1. So 15-second rest here. We're going to get ready for a right side plank. Three, 2, 1, and go. Okay, so here we're going for a lot of the same kind of characteristics. So that's an active shoulder holding us up, straight line through the body, trying to keep everything as square as we can. You can see Em's kind of pulled her left shoulder back to kind of stack over the top of the right one there. And this is the full length one. She's up on the feet there. She can also hook the feet up behind her and go from the knees. Okay, so that would be more of like a scaled option. Just giving it a little bit of a support there, a little bit of a shorter lever. 15 seconds. So this is all about getting now into the sides there, those obliques. Three, 2, 1. All right, so another 15-second rest. We'll obviously go to left side now to even things up. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So how Em has her feet set up here, she's got one foot on top of the other one. Okay, that's going to be probably the most challenging setup with this one. It's the least stable. If she wanted to, she could go one foot either in front or behind the other one, and that will just make the base a little bit wider there, just a little bit easier to work with. But otherwise, we're going to hold in this nice long position. Make sure we're not slouching and collapsing into that shoulder. You want to push the ground away, keep the whole body active as you go through this. Three, 2, 1, and resting. So final stage of this, guys, we go back to that original plank one last time. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So last one, guys, getting into this plank. So again, we're looking for that straightness. So being able to draw a line through head, shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles. Check that in every now and then, right? Just have a little bit of a glance down. Are my hips sinking to the ground, or am I kind of pushing myself back behind my elbows, right? You want to feel like you're kind of looking straight between your hands, keeping the body stacked. Short little sharp breaths. So we don't want to fully relax enough to get a normal breath in. We also don't want to hold our breath the entire time. Last 5 seconds. And done. All right, that is the finisher done, guys. Have a little bit of recovery time. We're going to finish off with a little bit of stretching next. Okay, guys, so now that all the hard stuff is done, we're just going to cool things down with a little bit of mobility to finish. So the first drill we're going to do is a lying glute stretch, which is going to look like this. Okay, so we're going to chuck 45 seconds on the clock for each side. Now we basically just hook one ankle on top of the other knee, and then I'm going to reach the arms through to grab that leg and draw it back towards me. So Emma has her left foot up on her right knee, so she's going to grab onto that right leg. Okay, she can also pull back on the left leg a little as well. You can do either leg is fine, as long as the feeling is that the whole thing is drawing back towards you. You can grab onto the hamstring. You can also grab around the front of the shin if you can reach. That will kind of crank it up even more. And this is just going to get into that sort of hip glute area. Obviously gets a lot of work when we do a lot of things like squatting, jumping, pulling, hinging, that sort of stuff. So it's good to keep that nice and fluent. We'll switch sides, Em. So if you've got really, really tight hips, guys, you might even find that you don't even need to hold onto that leg. You might find that just literally just hooking that leg up is enough of a stretch. Eventually, this is where we want to get to, where we can kind of hold in that and relax the body back to the ground. Having that nice external rotation ability on the hip is going to be much better for our squatting and stuff like that as well. Generally tends to stop us getting like a sore back if we're kind of rounding off in the squat, scooping the bum underneath. 3, 2, 1. So the other stretch we're gonna go into, guys, is an overhead tricep stretch. So this one can be done standing, seated, whichever way you wanna do it. I'm just going kneeling there. So basically grabbing onto one elbow, getting the hand sort of as close down between the shoulder blades as you can. So looking for a nice deep elbow bend, but we're looking at this tricep here, getting the stretch. Now you can also kind of tilt over a little bit, so she can lean over to her right a little bit there, extend the stretch down through the lat as well. And then just hanging out there. So you need to do this just as a straight static stretch, sitting still, or you can kind of lean back and forth, kind of gently encouraging that to open up a little bit more. And switching sides. So if you find you have trouble with this one, guys, you can also kind of set up against a wall to block that arm and get into that stretch. That works well too. The main thing is that you feel it through that upper rear side of the arm there. So 15 more seconds. So we can see that little bit of more like a dynamic style, kind of leaning and sort of flossing through that lat and that tricep. And that's time. All right, so those are the 2 drills, guys. If you've got time to, let's do 3 or 4 rounds of them. Just get the body nice and mobile, nice and loose. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time, and that's been your Move Plus workout.